live on the air. I'm Richard Saile.
This is wild.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Loungetime. I'm your host, Rich Saile, and today we have 1 week down in the books. We'll be talking about Thursday night. We'll be talking about some Week 1 action. We'll preview more Week 2 games coming tomorrow. And I got to start with this. Last week when I did my Week 1 predictions, I left out something very important that you, the fans, wanted to hear from. And let me give my deepest apologies because I was supposed to give my Super Bowl pick and my NFC Championship pick. And I didn't do that. So for you, the fans, I'm sorry. I forgot this. And I want to start today's show by giving you guys that pick. Now, to be clear, this had nothing to do with Week 1's games at all. This was stuff that I had picked well before the game started. I wrote this down when I concluded my first 2 episodes of the season. So I'm going to go by what I knew at the time and what I really believe will happen come Super Bowl Sunday. So we're going to start off with my Super Bowl pick, really my NFC championships, right? I'm going to get my NFC championship first, right? It was hard for me because really there's 3 big powerhouses in the NFC. It's Dallas, it's Philadelphia, and it's San Francisco. I think the Niners are getting to the NFC Championship game. I think the way I told you guys, well before the Week 1 happened, if Brock Purdy played like he did the way they ended last season, and if those key guys between McCaffrey, Samuel, Kittle, if those 3 stay healthy, with the way that defense was playing for the last 3 or 4 years, they're going to be in the Super Bowl again. Okay? Now, who do I have them beating in the NFC Championship game? I have to lean Philly right now. Because I'm looking at Dallas and I'm saying they could get there, but they haven't been to the championship game in almost 30 years. And Dak Prescott, against the really good elite teams, until I see it happen, I'm going with the trend. I don't think he can beat those elite teams when it matters the most. And I'm looking at other teams too. There's some question marks and inexperience that kick in. I just don't think they got enough. Now, there's a couple teams that have the potential to do it. I just don't think they're going to do it when I measure the elite 3 in the NFC against the next group tier of teams. And I say I don't think they got enough unless they make a move at the trade deadline. So for right now, my preseason pick in the NFC Championship game is a rematch of last year, but it's going to be in San Francisco between the Eagles and the Niners. And I'm taking the 49ers to win that game because what I knew last year when these 2 teams met, if Brock Purdy played, I'm not saying they would have beat the Eagles, but it would have been more of a competitive game. But I think the Niners are a better team. Not on paper, roster-wise, but I think that because they've been knocking at the door, they've been right there, and I think this is Kyle Shanahan's year to break through and get back to the Super Bowl and represents the NFC. So I'm going with San Francisco to beat Philly in Levi's Stadium. So I got San Francisco beating Philly in the NFC Championship. Now the AFC. This is hard because the AFC's loaded, okay? I'm a little worried with the Bengals because Joe Burrow's calf injury. And obviously, we'll talk about Week 1 with them when we get there. I didn't like what I saw in, hearing from, they're saying he should have played. They should have waited till Week 5. He obviously came back Week 1, which I was fine with. But I'm a little nervous about that injury, especially as it goes on later in the season. He's not a mobile guy like a Jalen Hurts or Justin Fields, even though I think that would impact it a little bit more if they were running more. But as a pocket quarterback, and he's not really the most mobile quarterback, that's a little more concerning. Obviously, we'll talk about the Jets and right after this, because that's actually what I'm opening based off the Week 1 games. I have to go Buffalo and Kansas City. I have to. I just think I'm just a little weary about that Burrow injury. I wanted to take Cincinnati really badly, but I can't go there. And as much as I despise the Chiefs annoying, nauseating bandwagons, as much as I despise them, I just don't see any team really that can, maybe outside of Cincinnati, that could really get in the way of both the Bills and the Chiefs. But Cincinnati's whole season is depending on Joe Burrow's calf injury. Now, he's fine now, but I'm a little worried as that season goes on. So I'm going to take Buffalo and Kansas City to meet in the NFC Championship game. And I think Josh Allen finally breaks through and beats Mahomes, because it's all about the Burrow-Mahomes rivalry, but I think we're going to get another Allen-Mahomes matchup. And I think Josh Allen finally breaks through and beats Mahomes to have Buffalo go to its first Super Bowl since the 90s, which brings me to Buffalo and San Francisco. And again, I'm going to make the point that I might have made last year, but I might have said it even a couple weeks ago. We have to stop falling in love with these superstar quarterbacks every time that we want to meet up in the Super Bowl. It's not going to happen every year. There's a reason why Brad Johnsons have won a Super Bowl, Trent Dilfers have won a Super Bowl, Joe Flacco's have won a Super Bowl. Heck, Nick Foles just won one, 5 years ago? So not every big-name superstar quarterback is going to get a Super Bowl every year. Okay? And I think the 49ers are going to have that with Brock Purdy. And I think the Niners are going to beat the Bills, and I think that defense is the best in the league, and I think that they're going to give Josh Allen fits. And I think that if those guys stay healthy, Kittle, McCaffrey, and Samuel, and if Brock Purdy plays like he's been playing, with Shanahan calling plays, they're going to win it all. So I'm taking the 49ers over the Bills in the Super Bowl as my Super Bowl 58 prediction. Sorry, guys, I did not give it last week. My apologies. I wanted to make sure I started off today's show with this because that was a very important thing I wanted to put in last week, but I didn't forget. So this time we're opening up with my Super Bowl pick and my AFC NFC Championship game predictions. So now that we got that out of the way, let's actually talk about Week 1 first before we talk about the Thursday night game, because there's some big games we have to talk about. And I want to start with the Bills and the Jets first, because this is probably the biggest league impact game of the week on different levels. First, on a serious note, I cannot believe that Aaron Rodgers is done for the season after 4 plays. All the hype, Hard Knocks, I really can't believe it. And I thought when it happened live, I thought it was his ankle. And then when I see him got carted off, I was like, okay, this is not really an ankle if he's getting carted off, unless it's a high ankle sprain, which it was not. But this is what I'm thinking live. And then, because they were saying it too on the broadcast, they said it was an ankle in the beginning of the broadcast live when I was watching it. The game ends, and I get a text that says, wow, the Achilles. And I'm thinking, oh, shit. That's actually worse. And I read what Saile said Tuesday morning. And then I got word about 11:15 Tuesday that Aaron Rodgers was out for the season. And on a serious note, I think it sucks that we have a star quarterback out already. And the reason why it sucks is because I don't think it's just Jet fans when I say this. The whole league wanted to see Aaron Rodgers with a new team, how that team would play around him. They wanted to see how this whole thing would go down. I mean, New York City, new team, got Nathaniel Hackett, somebody he's really good, close relationship with from his Green Bay days. Got his guys Lazard and Cobb there. A really good defense. A lot of us wanted to see the Jets and Aaron Rodgers, how this experiment would go, and they wanted to see if they could be really, really fun to watch. Including myself as a Patriot fan. I actually wanted to see how Aaron Rodgers would look with the Jets, with this team, how they play around him, and how their season would go. But it sucks that he's out because of a torn Achilles. And yeah, it sucks because I wanted to see how we would game plan for him. We're playing the Jets next week, Patriots. I wanted to see how we would play against them. I think we would have lost had he, played against us. But I just wanted to see it just because I wanted to see how they would go through ups and downs the whole season. Because their first 9 games, as we all knew, are pretty tough on the schedule. I wanted to see how they would start out. Because we all saw Tom Brady with the Bucs. We all saw Peyton Manning with Denver, right? And I got to watch Favre a little bit with the Vikings. And a little bit with the Jets. I'm trying to think of some other examples that I would put. And we're probably of a high example with this. But those are the 3 that come to mind that I got to watch a Hall of Fame quarterback play with different teams and the excitement and the hype around those teams. And this sucks that we don't get to see it this season with Aaron Rodgers. We have to wait. And there's actually talk now of if he will be able to come back from, which I really do hope he will, because that would be a sadful, if that's a word, I don't think it is, but it would be a sad, bitter ending if that's the case. But I know he said on Pat McAfee's show that he's not going to retire. He's going to surprise a lot of people with the rehab. So I wish him nothing but the best. And hopefully we get to see him in action next season with the Jets, because we all want to see our teams at our best. And it sucks that after 4 snaps, it's over just like that in the blink of an eye. And yeah, it sucks because I wanted to see how he would do with that other team. Just as the football fan in me, and just to see him play against a team, my team plays twice a year. I wanted to see him with that team. I wanted to see how they would, play with him and if they could make a deep run, because I thought they would have made probably this divisional round. And I think I had them predicted to go in the divisional round, but now it's opened the door for a lot of other teams that are just right there, because the AFC's a gauntlet. It's 10, 12 deep. This injury opens up that door for some of those teams now. But we'll get into a couple of those teams that won and lost in the AFC that I think will be major players. But the Jets, I think, will still be in the fold. But Zach Wilson's not the savior. He's not. And it's crazy that I want to bring up something too. There were actually Jet fans thinking they were going to get Tom Brady to come out of retirement. They really thought they were going to get Tom Brady to come out of retirement. The quarterback they hated for 20 years, and they despise mostly in New York, New Jersey, okay? And they actually thought that they were going to get Tom Brady to come out of retirement. When he literally said 2 days before, when he was getting honored at Gillette at halftime, I'm a Patriot for life. You think Tom Brady's going to pull a Brett Favre and go to the Jets and play against Belichick twice a year? No. Not with the loyalty he had with Kraft. No. Okay? But some of the other quarterbacks' names that were thrown out there, I'm sitting there going, I'm not worried about them. And I won't name names, but I'm sure everybody heard of who they're looking into. But I'm not worried at all with the open guys on the market. There's actually sports media talk that Kirk Cousins they should trade for. I'm going to be honest, I'm not really scared about Kirk Cousins because he always leaves you something that you keep wishing and wanting, but he doesn't deliver. And I'm sorry, but I wouldn't fear Kirk Cousins if he went to the Jets. I wouldn't. But I don't think the Vikings realistically would trade him. I don't. Maybe if they're like 1-7, I'm not saying they're going to, but I'm saying a hypothetical scenario, they might, just to build on the future. But I don't see that happening. I don't see the Jets trying to trade for Kirk Cousins or the Vikings trading Cousins alone. That's other talk that I was hearing too. But that's some very interesting points that I was hearing because obviously the Jets now have a big quarterback hole and they're going to try to find any loophole any scenario where they should go do this and stuff like that. But again, that dominated all week. So I figured we start today's Lounge Time with this because this is obviously the biggest takeaway from week 1. Is a team with a lot of expectations, a lot of hype, and unfortunately Aaron Rodgers is lost for the year because of this. And it's sad. For not just Jet fans, but for football fans in general to watch him, to see how he would do with this new team and new cast of receivers and the new roster he has and the new coaching staff. We all wanted to see how that would go. Now let's get to the game. The Jets basically won on a walk-off punt return touchdown. Xavier Gipson, if you guys don't remember, he was kind of somebody that made the roster in Hard Knocks. And what a way to stake his claim on the roster. Walk-off punt return touchdown. On 9/11, which is crazy to believe too. And it was the game winner. I mean, I had somebody that I had somebody basically watch that highlight probably for the whole week that I know is a Jet fan. And I tried to be like, all right, it's one day, let it happen. But then when I hear it constantly over and over and over again, it's like, okay, it was a nice punt return touchdown, but it wasn't like insane, but it was crazy. Okay? But again, that was crazy to believe that the Jets actually won despite everything that happened. Zach Wilson looked okay. And again, I don't think he's a savior at all. I don't. He started out with the pick to Milano and then slowly did okay. I don't think he played really well. I mean, the Garrett Wilson one-handed catch for the touchdown, that was a horrible throw. Just all Wilson. And that was a really nice catch too. But that touchdown catch kind of changed the game, along with a couple other things we'll get to when we talk about the Bills. But the Jets, other than the quarterback, have a really nice roster for the most part in everywhere but their offensive line. And quarterback, really. But the Jets' defense will keep them in games. I think they're gonna be in a lot of games because of their defense. But again, it comes down to Zach Wilson, and I don't think he's gonna be the guy that can win games for them to make them earn a wild card. Last year, he basically had the same situation, and they started out really good, and then they crumbled down the stretch. And I know that he's had another year now to learn the system. It's a new offensive coordinator again. I still think he's the same old Zach Wilson where he's going to turn the ball over, make a lot of dumb plays, and he's got the talent for sure, but it's not translating to something that's worth the second overall pick in the draft. You see why there's upside with him, but not enough to me for them to make a playoff spot, especially how low to the AFC and how deep it is. But they somehow won an ugly game, and who would have thought week 1? Well, no, I shouldn't say that actually. But in the circumstances that it happened, like if someone told you this story, who would have thought the Jets would actually have the better record than the Giants through week 1? But if you were to tell this story well before when the schedule came out, I wouldn't have believed you if you told me that. I would have been like, wait, Rodgers gets hurt. Zach Wilson comes in and leads them to beat the Bills? And the Giants, we'll talk about in a little bit, they get smoked like that? Really? If you would have told me that when the schedule came out, I would have been like, you are actually insane. But it happened. So, yeah, the Jets actually have a better record than the Giants at this rate. This is actually surprising. Breece Hall had 10 carries for 127 yards. He looked really good coming off the ACL surgery. And that Jets defense, they had three interceptions. Jordan Whitehead had all 3 of them. He had a hell of a game. 5 sacks. They're going to be a top 10 defense again. And Saile's going to have those guys ready to go, but they got a lot of talent there. But with every really good defense, they need an offense to pick up some slack if they can't get it going. And I don't think that offense has it without Rodgers. I don't. Which brings me to the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen sold them the game. And I watched this game really closely. And some of the throws that I saw him make, I'm going, what are you seeing? Because he's literally forcing it into double coverage. And I'm saying, there's a check down wide open. Throw the ball there. It's the easier throw. Take it. I don't know what he's thinking in the moment, but he's throwing it into double coverage down the field, and I'm going, does he not see the check down there? Or this guy's open? He had a lot of those Monday night. He did. And he threw it into double coverage a lot where I'm like, what are you doing? So he sold them the game, straight up. They were up 10 at half, and he gagged and gave the Jets life. And I don't know if he saw something that he wanted to take advantage of. I don't know. But not very good throws at all. He sold them this game. He played really, really bad. And what I like is he took ownership for it. That's the sign of a great leader. He put the shoulder on him, and he wasn't afraid of it. He said, I did not play well. He owned it, which I liked. But, again, he sold him the game. 3 interceptions. That was unacceptable. And this is what he's been. I read a stat that said he has the most turnovers since coming into the league in the last 5 years, tied with him and Jared Goff. But I think now he's leaped Jared Goff with the 3 turnovers Monday night. But yeah, Josh Allen straight up sold the Bills this game. He had the lost fumble too that gave the Jets an opportunity to take the lead. That was bad too. But 10-point lead, just like that, gone. Stephon Diggs did really well, but Gabe Davis was quiet. Kincaid didn't really get a lot of targets. Knox didn't get a lot of targets. The other guys besides Stephon Diggs got to step up if the Bills are expecting to go as far as people think they can go. And I have them coming out of the AFC to go to the Super Bowl. That's the whole thing with them. But that defense did what it had to do, but they couldn't do anything once their quarterback was giving the ball to the Jets time and time again, and they just self-destructed. And this is the thing with them that they seem to struggle with is close games. And like I said, that's going to be their Achilles heel, is when Josh Allen goes into a turnover frenzy and they're in close games and they're botching, you've got the Bills where you want them. And that's been their Achilles heel, especially in the playoff game. Josh Allen didn't play well against the Bengals in the playoffs, and he didn't look good now 2 games in a row. For counting back to the last time we saw him before Monday night. But if I'm the Bills, I'm saying this has got to get fixed. And Daboll, we're starting to realize he had a lot to do with him taking care of the ball cleaner. But since Daboll has left, he's been the same Josh Allen that's been turning the ball crazy left and right. Speaking of New York teams, the Cowboys and the Giants. Boy, oh boy. I didn't expect this. But Giant fans, you are not running and hiding today. Oh no. I wanted so bad to make this Monday, but I had some stuff to take care of. But I am going to let you all hear it today, because this is something I was waiting so bad to do. Now I finally get to do it. You mean to tell me you got embarrassed for the 2nd game in a row, blown off the field by your division rival again? This time at home with the whole world watching, especially on that $40 million quarterback per year? You mean to tell me they scored 0 points? They scored the size of this M&M cookie that I have from Panera. That's how many points they scored. The size of a Panera M&M cookie. 0. With a $40 million quarterback, and they had to keep Saquon Barkley. Darren Waller, who had a hamstring injury. He made a catch or two. Jalen High, who I like. I wanted my Patriots to draft him. Now I'm seeing why we didn't. And the rest are a bag of chips. Wow. You scored 0 points with the whole world watching. That's very bad. But I told you I had a little surprise for you Giants fans. And let me tell you something. This is a rude awakening for you guys. You know why? Because it doesn't get any easier. It doesn't get any easier. I know who they play. I know who they play on the schedule. You know who you got next Thursday night? I do. And I'm going to mention it at the end of the show. You're not winning that game. But you got to beat Arizona. If you lose to Arizona, oh my God, the New York media is going to have a frenzy. If you guys lose to the Cardinals, oh my God, the New York media is going to eat you guys up, bro. I'm serious. You cannot lose to Josh Dobbs and that tanking Cardinals franchise. You cannot lose to them. You cannot. There's no. But you are definitely losing next Thursday night. That is a guarantee, which I'm getting to when we get to the picks. You guys are in for a rude awakening. I have to remind some Giants fans that are watching this show. I'm getting both of them on here this year. We had one last year after the playoffs. I'm getting this next one, who I'm going to bring for NBA takes later. He knows his name. I'm letting him know, okay? I have to repeat some stats that caught my eye Sunday night. Mr. $40 million quarterback per year. Daniel Jones, 15 of 28 for 104 yards, 2 interceptions. You paid $40 million for that? You paid him that over Saquon? Really? You paid Daniel Jones over Saquon Barkley for that? 104 yards, 2 interceptions? He gets sacked 7 times? And that's supposed to be the future? The next guy, as some Giant fans have texted me and told me? Really? You told me you had the guy. I don't see it. I don't see it. But you still have no excuse not to make the playoffs. You have a better roster on paper than some of those other teams I left out last week. There's no excuse for you guys. 0. You got your asses handed to you. That was terrible. And I can't believe I had the balls to pick this to be a close game. I knew they weren't that great. But they're in for a rude awakening. Because they're not that good. You had your magic carpet ride. It's over now. That shit's in the past. We're in the right now. And you're not very good. And what we know already is against Philly and Dallas, you've gotten blown off the field the last 2+ years. Even when you had your magic carpet ride, you got swept both times by them. Philly beat you 3 times last year. Dallas beat you 2 times. And they smoked you this year. You're not that good. But I still think you're making the playoffs. I'm not going off there. But this is a rude awakening as to why you had a magic carpet ride last season and you're not as good as those two are right now. I told you guys I had a surprise for him. It's starting. Okay? But this is a horrible way to start. I can't believe I had the balls to pick this as a close game. Let's go to the Cowboys. The Dallas defense, they are legit. Okay? I had my cousins Frankie and Nikki on, and I had my Uncle Al to open up the season. And I've told them, they're a top 5 defense with the guys they have in the front 7. Stephon Gilmore with Trayvon Diggs in the back end is significantly better than what it's been the last couple years. And we didn't even mention Deron Bland, who had a pick 6 in this game. Okay? They had a blocked field goal for touchdown, opening drive of the game. I mean, Micah Parsons is only getting better, who's actually my pick to win Defensive Player of the Year. I didn't even get to individual awards yet, which we'll get to next week. I promise. But Micah Parsons, a sneak peek, is winning Defensive Player of the Year in my opinion. I'm not joking. He's been right there the last 2 years. This is Micah Parsons' year. And I heard some of the stuff in the offseason. I've seen some training camp highlights of him. He's going to have a really insane season. I think this is his time to win Defensive Player of the Year. And DeMarcus Lawrence, they got up front. They got Mozzie Smith to help the run defense, which they needed. Odigizua they have. They have Soleil and Van Der Esch from Boise State. They are loaded. on defense. Dorrance Armstrong. I mean, the Dallas Cowboys have everything on defense. Now it's coming down to that offense. And I asked them straight up. I asked my cousins Frankie and Nikki how that offense is going to be. Do they expect to step back? I asked them. I didn't. Again, it's the Giants. I want to see when they play the Jets Sunday, because that's a more difficult defense than the Giants are. I want to see when they play New England, which looked really good. We're going to talk about them against the Eagles, although I have my own thoughts there. Okay, we're going to see when Dallas plays Philly. We're going to see when they play difficult defenses. But their offense, I want to see how it's going to be when they play the big boys on defense. And again, but early on, Pollard looks like he could be the number one running back. We saw why they let Zeke go. Deuce Vaughn will get his touches as the season goes on, I think. I think they'll find more and more ways to use him. CeeDee Lamb looks like a 1. Cooks looks like a really good 2, although he didn't get targeted much. CeeDee Lamb had 7 for 77. And that offensive line, as long as Tyron Smith and Zach Martin are healthy, that offensive line will be just fine. And like I said, I think that they're going to be major players. The big question for Dallas is going to be when Dak Prescott plays the 49ers, the Eagles, the big boys in the NFC. Can he break through and beat a very good to elite team in the playoffs? And his resume right now says he hasn't. But that team around him is only getting better. And remember when Tony Romo and DeMarco Murray and Dez Bryant were on those teams 10 years ago? They had a talented team. They couldn't break through. When they had Dak, Zeke, Dez Bryant. Remember that? Maury Cooper. They've had talent these last couple years. They can't get that wall down. Eventually, it's got to come down to, can they get down and break that door down and go to the NFC Championship game for the first time in almost 30 years? They have material, but it's always something that always gets in the way. That's the only thing I'm a little worried about. Whether it's McCarthy, Prescott not playing well, something's always in the way when it happens, okay? The kicking situation last year, they had the roster this year. Now it's time to do it. Philly doesn't look the same. We'll talk about Philly in a little bit. They don't look the same through 2 games. Something's up with them. But the Dallas Cowboys, it's right there for them to get back to the championship game in almost 30 years. Miami and the Chargers. This is another game I want to talk about. I didn't watch this game. I had this game when they were showing score updates. When I was watching the Eagles-Patriots, I saw a couple things going on. This was a really good game. And I got to give Tua credit here because this was a game he actually played well. And as you guys know from last year, I'm not a big Tua fan, but I'll give him credit where credit's due. I have my own criticism of Tua that I'm waiting to see, just like I have with Prescott and just like I have with other guys that I've mentioned before. Tua had a great game. 28 of 45, 466, 3 touchdowns, interception. Tyreek Hill, 11 for 215 and 2 touchdowns. I mean, Tua and Tyreek have had that connection for 2 years now. And I think that, again, they're going to be major players now in the AFC East with the Jets now dealing with their situation. Remember, Miami made the playoffs last year with Skylar Thompson, Teddy Bridgewater, and Tua in their carousel of quarterbacks they had for the majority of those games. And they upgraded their defense getting Vic Fangio, and they added Bradley Chubb midseason last year. But I know Miami's offense can play. I don't know if they got a really great running game. That's to be honest. I don't think they have a great running game. But their skill position players are legit. They are. But that defense, though, I'm not going to make a big deal about it after 1 week. I'm not. I know 34 points is a lot of points. I understand that. They still got guys up front you got to worry about. Christian Wilkins, Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips is a guy you got to watch out for. Okay? My issue with them, the back end. I know Xavier Howard's a good corner. Okay? But Jalen Ramsey being out, I said it when I picked the AFC playoff teams. That injury is a big loss because they now have somebody in this. They got Cam Smith from South Carolina in the draft. I don't know if he's good enough to cover number 2 receivers. I don't know about that. I don't know if their secondary can hold up. I know Javon Holland's really good as a safety. I don't think their secondary is good enough to hold up against number 2s and number 3s wide receivers, especially teams that like to throw the ball a lot, all over the lot. I don't see that. But 34 points is a lot. But I know Vic Fangio will have them really good as the season goes on. I'm not worried about that. The 34 points, if there's an area of concern for Miami's defense, it's the secondary, I think, in my estimation. But I know Miami's offense will be scoring a pretty good amount of points this season. They might be top 10 in scoring. I could argue they might be top 5 since they play a second-place schedule in the way Mike McDaniel calls plays. So I'm not really worried about Miami's offense. I'm worried about the secondary, though. As for the Chargers, would you believe the Chargers had almost 2 100-yard rushers in the game? They almost had 2 100-yard rushers. And Justin Herbert was under 300 yards passing. And they almost won the game. Would you believe that? I think they were, 9 of 15 on third down, too? And they almost won. But their defense and Brandon Staley. Somebody needs to tell me this. How does a team with Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, how do they have 2 sacks up front? Not even 2 sacks. I'm sorry. 2 quarterback hits. How do they have 2 quarterback hits in a game with those 2 guys? 2. Miami won by 2. The Chargers defense only had 2 quarterback hits all game. How does that happen? Tell me. How does that happen? I mean, I never would have thought, looking at the Chargers, they had the opportunity to be balanced. And Kellen Moore, brought the running element that Dallas fans wanted him to do when it was time to run. But they had almost 2 100-yard rushers. Keenan Allen had, I think, 78 yards or something like that. He was their leading receiver. But if Justin Herbert was under 300 yards passing, they had almost 2 100-yard rushers, scored 34 points. But if you were to tell me their defense would only get 2 quarterback hits, and J.C. Jackson would get the only pick for them, and they'd give up 36, I'd say, that Charger defense is not that great. But they got the names too. But something just, and that would be the one area of concern I have about the Chargers is that defense. Because we know Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, their names. They can get to the quarterback. They're elite pass rushers, yes. But that secondary, too, is not very good outside of J.C. Jackson. Nasir Adderley's all right. Derwin James is really good. But they've been basically trying to move him as like a inside linebacker safety. But that secondary is not good. 36 points. They give up 36. And Brandon Staley once again finds ways to choke up a game. You got a tough game in Tennessee Sunday. I don't know at all what to make of the Chargers. Offensively, they got it all. Defensively, I don't think Brandon Staley was a guy. I thought they should have got Sean Payton last year. They didn't. Denver got him. But it is what it is. That's the Chargers. They find ways to lose games. That's why I didn't pick them to go to the playoffs. Philly and New England. All right, I'm going to start with the Eagles first. Jalen Hurts was okay. 23 of 33. Or 22 of 33, I'm sorry. 170 passing yards. A touchdown. Devontae Smith, 7 catches, 47 yards, a touchdown. A.J. Brown had 7 for 74. Darius Slay had a pick 6. The Eagles' offensive line gave up 3 sacks. I'm going to talk about their game on Thursday too, actually, when we get to week 2 a little bit. But I was very surprised how they looked really, really good after 1 quarter. And then, even when the rain stopped, they looked mediocre. They looked mediocre. I don't know what it was, okay? Maybe it was some of the looks Belichick's defense was giving them. Maybe it was. But they looked very below average on offense after the first quarter. And we'll get to week 2, but something is off on Philly right now. I don't know what it is, but they don't look right so far. Which brings me to my Patriots. Boy, where do we go from here, bro? I don't want to hear anything about, oh, you played them tough. You don't have a bad team. I don't believe in moral victories right now. I don't, okay? I'm sorry. I don't believe in that. At the end of the day, you lose, you lose. And unfortunately, the same shit that happens the last going on 4 years is the same shit that keeps happening when you get rid of a Hall of Fame quarterback. And you try to prove, once again, that your ego proves that, you know what? This was all about me. Yeah, your defense played well, but once again, you dig yourselves too big of a hole to climb out of that you can't climb out of. Once again, the New England Patriots find ways to lose games. They botch. They turn the ball over. They commit bad, timely penalties. And again, when points are there, they get conservative. And the one issue I had with Bill O'Brien's play calling, he called too many screens. And Philly knew it. That's the one issue I had. The only issue I had. Other than that, I liked what I saw offensively. I thought Mac Jones looked better. And if we finally got an offensive system for him that he's brought over from Alabama, that he's brought over from what he did really well the first time in New England and Houston that he went, and don't forget he was at Penn State too, okay? We have an offensive system. That's good. But, once again, the first quarter was bad, but as the game went on, yeah, he looked better, but he wasn't good enough to win. He wasn't good enough to win. And I don't blame it all on him. I don't. But these receivers, Kendrick Bourne, finally someone saw him as a number one on this team. The idiot last year who called plays for us didn't realize he was the number one receiver. He should have got more time. He didn't realize that. But Bill O'Brien comes in, he's like, why isn't he getting more touches? Because he was good 2 years ago when you gave him the damn ball and he led our team in receiving 2 years ago. And you bring him in and he gets 2 touchdowns. You see what happens when you use a guy that was good 2 years ago? That's a proven one on this team. Not somebody whose knee is basically one hit away from being done. You give $11 million per year. Why the hell did we sign him? You know what I'm referring to. TikTok dancer. He was supposed to be a 1. No, Kendrick Bourne's been the 1 the whole time. He just said I was in a doghouse for unknown reasons. I don't explain. Oh, wait. He's in Belichick's doghouse because Belichick's reasons. I don't know why. But finally, we used him. About time. Again, the defense played well. I will say that. Outside of the pick six, the touchdown off the short field, they played well. But, again, the offense concerns me. And this is what we need to get drilled down. This is not the 70s, 80s where you need a really strong defense and a really great running game. The game's changed, Bill. You need offense. You see some of these teams in the AFC you're going to be playing this year? Philly had an offense. Miami, you're playing tomorrow night. They got an offense. The Jets had one before Rodgers got hurt. Hell, you play in Dallas. They got an offense now. Okay? You're going to play Kansas City. You're going to play Buffalo later. You're going to play the Chargers with their offense. You need offense. This ain't the 70s, 80s no more. Evolve. And now I feel like Monday night we're going to be in trouble because how the hell are we covering Tyreek and Waddle? Because John Jones, our best corner, might be out. God damn this fucking team, man, what they do to me. 1 of 4 on 4th down. 3 of 5 in the red zone. 2 turnovers. The little things you can't do well anymore. It's the same shit, just a different year. Hopefully, we have an opportunity to win and look really good in the division against Miami. And we're home too. We got an opportunity. It's there. Just don't botch. Don't botch the game. 49ers Steelers. I got to go to another game. This was the game I watched at 1 o'clock, and then I watched the Titans Saints for the fourth quarter because this was a blowout. But I got to say this. Brock Purdy looked really, really good. I mean, wow. I was expecting him to take a little step back early, but he came out on target, on point, and he carved up Pittsburgh everywhere. Pat Pete got owned by Brandon Ayuk. Wow. A very good corner that's on his last legs, and that's aging. Brandon Ayuk destroyed him every time I watched him. Every time I watched that matchup, Brandon Ayuk was winning one-on-one. Now, Brandon Ayuk, I know, is younger than Pat Pete. I get it. But, man, the touchdown catch Ayuk had on him? Oof. Oh, my God. They're for real, bro. The Niners are for real. I mean, I thought Pittsburgh would upset them. I'm on record. I said that. But I didn't expect this beatdown week 1 in the way they did Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. No way. Drake Jackson? 3 sacks? His first game. I haven't even heard of this guy. I mean, they lost Charles Omenihu. In comes Drake Jackson. 3 sacks. They got Javon Hargrave. Nick Bosa's back. Woo! Man, they're for real, man. They're for real. I said the only thing they got to worry about is health because the injury bug somehow gets this team. Other than that, they're for real. Brock Purdy's got all the intangibles for Kyle Shanahan's system. Now, he may not have the eye testing that they like to trade Lance out of the draft. And Jimmy G didn't really have that either. But Jimmy G was accurate enough. But Brock Purdy just has something in that intangibles where it just fits Kyle Shanahan's system. And Kyle Shanahan can open up the playbook even more for him. He fits really well in their system. He does. And the only knock that I heard about him in college was he forced a lot of throws. He was a gunslinger and all that. But I don't see really a lot of it with Shanahan because I think Shanahan can reel it in a little bit. And he finds great spacing to get guys open. The 49ers are for real, man. I mean, wow. That defense, Hufanga and Charvarius Ward at a pick, 7 points allowed, 2 interceptions, 5 sacks. This is a Super Bowl defense. This is a Super Bowl defense. I'm serious. This team is absolutely for real. I know it's 1 week and all that. They're going to be really, really tough to beat. I mean, this team is... They've been knocking on the door the last couple of years. I think it's their year. I'm not even joking. The only thing about Pittsburgh that I'm going to say that was good was TJ Watt at 3 sacks. He had some crazy pass rush plays. He had a forced fumble that tried to get Pittsburgh life, but Kenny Pickett just... He was all right. He was all right. I mean, the interceptions were bad. Najee Harris couldn't really run the ball well. That's why I stayed away from him in fantasy. I think they were transitioning more to Pickett, getting a bigger role in the offense, letting him throw a little bit more. I think Pittsburgh's going to be fine. I don't think this is a big deal for them right now, but that offensive line was an area of concern they addressed in the draft, getting Broderick Jones. I think they're going to be okay. It's just that defense, again, they'll be fine. This was a very big wake-up call for them that they just played a Super Bowl team. There's a huge gap between them and some of the top Super Bowl teams in my mind, as of right now. That doesn't mean that can shorten by the time playoffs come and stuff like that. But big wake-up call, Pittsburgh. That was wide open. Wow. The Niners just went in there and beat them. That was surprising. That was the biggest eye-opening statement probably of the weekend. I mean, now there's other games that I didn't mention where if I didn't mention your game, I saw little bits of it, but there's not enough for me to really comment as of right now. Okay? I didn't talk about the Packers-Bears game and how well Jordan Love played, but I want to be fair. It's the Bears. This is not a rivalry anymore. Okay? I didn't mention that game. Okay? And again, Chase Claypool, he's gone. They're just trying to handle it internally. He's gone. Chase Claypool is going to be out of the Bears very shortly. And I think it's his immaturity. That's just that, okay? I didn't talk about the Vikings-Bucks game, how the Bucks went into Minnesota and upset them. I didn't see that one coming. That was a shock. I didn't talk about Rams-Seattle, where somebody picked Seattle to win the NFC West, and they lose to the Rams with two receivers, Nakua and Atwell. Without Cooper Kupp, they go into Seattle and beat them. I had Seattle making it as a wild card. Somebody had them to win the division. I won't name names. But that's a game I didn't talk about. Okay? I didn't talk about Tampa Bay, Minnesota, which I was going to say. Justin Jefferson goes crazy in the first half, then only gets 2 targets in the second half. Why? Which we'll get to when we talk about Vikings-Eagles. So, if I didn't talk about your game, it's not that I didn't have notes already. I'm just trying to shorten it up to get to what I watched that I really want to talk about on this show. Okay? Because we only got a certain amount of games to talk about and a certain amount of time we got to cover things in. So don't feel offended. I used to do that in the past. But this year, I had to make a change. I had to talk about the games I wanted to talk about. That doesn't mean you'll come up later in the year. If you do, great. But don't feel offended if we didn't talk about your team. Okay? Just a future reference. Okay? Now let's get to Eagles-Vikings a little bit, because this happened to be Thursday night, which I did watch. Philly, again, starts out great. But one thing that I was surprised was they came out throwing early, and yet Devontae got behind him at least twice. I know he burnt the Vikings secondary for 1 touchdown in like the third quarter. But I was surprised how they just realized that their running game was their strength last year. And then from then on, they ran the ball, and Minnesota couldn't stop it. And I had DeAndre Swift on my fantasy team. And thank you for giving me 27 fantasy points, because that was big. But again, I don't know why they didn't realize it last week against New England. Maybe New England's front is better at stopping the run than I give them credit for, which I'm glad. But Minnesota, I don't know. I mean, Minnesota was not great defensively last year. But clearly you weren't throwing. And I'm glad they realized in the second quarter they could run the ball. Their running game and their offensive line is their strength. They have skill position players, but they couldn't throw against Minnesota early. They needed to learn to go back to their running game, which was their strength. They have veteran Hall of Fame offensive linemen in Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson, an up-and-coming rising star in Jordan Mailata at left tackle, Landon Dickerson at left guard. Their offensive line, the top 5 offensive line in the league. Why aren't they running the ball more? And Sirianni took heat 2 years ago when he got hired. You remember that? After that, they were the number 1 rushing attack 2 years ago when he first got hired. They finally realized what their strength was, running the football. I'm glad the Eagles realized it. And then you see Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown's sideline thing, and Sirianni's trying to calm A.J. Brown down. A.J. Brown, how about you block before you catch? I mean, you're a running team. You can throw too, but it ain't working that way. And I have no problem with the way Jalen Hurts handled it. 0 issue with that. 0. Because he's saying all the right things. It's not your day-to-day. But we got to focus on the team. Remember, he had that great Super Bowl performance, but all they talked about was how they lost. But everybody praised how well he played. In his mind, he wasn't satisfied with it. I have no issue with how Jalen Hurts handled it. A.J. Brown, block before you catch. Okay? They'll get you the ball, but sometimes it ain't your day. And this is the problem with the me-first wide receiver era, too. That's the thing, too. If it ain't your day, it ain't your day. Straight up. So, but as for the Vikings, Justin Jefferson is really their best receiver. And Jordan Addison had a nice touchdown, too, Thursday night. He did. But the Vikings have issues up front on their offensive line. I know Alexander Madison's taking a lot of heat. What was said to him on social media was unacceptable. If you guys don't know, look it up. I'm sure you'll find it, okay? But, again, it's not just the offense that's to blame. That defense, again, they were not great last year. They were all right against Tampa, but to give up 34 against the Eagles in a game where you couldn't stop the run and their passing game got behind you a couple plays, that's alarming. And that's why I didn't take Minnesota to make the playoffs, because I had issues about their running game. Their offensive line worries me a little bit, and their secondary is, I think, a little young and inexperienced. And I think their defense isn't that great. That's why. But again, they put up a fight, but early on, turnovers, sloppy. They were very, very sloppy early in the game. And Philly took advantage of it. And that's what the really good teams do versus the average so-so teams. All right, so let's get to the Week 2 picks. Obviously, last week, I did not really do... I don't know if I did that great. I don't think I did that great, honestly, if I'm trying to eyeball test it. But we have picks for this week. Starting off with the Bills and the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, injury notes. Jacoby Myers is doubtful to play for the Raiders. And I think it doesn't even matter if he plays or not. You know why? Because the Buffalo Bills are going to go at home and they're going to go off on the Vegas Raiders. You know why? Because the Vegas Raiders have no secondary. And that's my issue with them the whole year. And somebody's going to realize that, yeah, they're not a playoff team. Okay? I have no doubts that Buffalo will be fine. I have them in one of my survivor pools. I'm trying to stay alive again. So I have the Buffalo Bills winning very convincingly over the Las Vegas Raiders, 38-13 in Buffalo. They'll be fine. They'll be back on track. They are not losing to the Las Vegas. It's not happening. Bengals-Ravens. Oh, this is a good game. Man, Joe Burrow, they had a really bad game against Cleveland. We didn't talk about that game for Week 1 games either. This is a game that's a little dangerous for the Ravens because, let me explain why. Their offense didn't look that great against the Texans. I got to say that. And I think the Bengals are pissed that they lost to their in-state rival and they got waxed. And Joe Burrow is laser focused on trying to right the ship and get this right. And I think the Ravens defense is good, but I think that the Bengals are going to come out on a mission. That they're going to get their bad taste out of their mouth from the Cleveland game. And I've got the Bengals winning against Baltimore 27-23. I think they're going to be fired up and they're going to be ready to get that bad taste out of their mouth and extract it against the team they knocked out of the playoffs. And I don't think the Ravens offense is that great. I think Mark Andrews is a little banged up, right? And I think Lou Anarumo is going to have a game plan for Lamar Jackson. I do. And I think that the Bengals are going to win at home and they're going to win 27-23 over the Ravens. Chiefs, Jaguars. I want to take the Jags so bad. But Kelsey and Jones are back for the Chiefs. Of course, when I have the one moment to not bash them, but acknowledge and troll, of course they come back. Right? But, again, they have the best quarterback in football right now. And as much as I believe in Trevor Lawrence, and I think he's going to win MVP too, by the way. That's another sneak peek of my individual awards. I think he's going to win MVP. I just think that the Jags defense against the Chiefs offense, I think Andy Reid's going to have his way once again. And I've got the Chiefs winning 30-27 in Jacksonville, and I just think the Jags secondary and their young defense, I don't believe they can get a stop on Mahomes. Even in Jacksonville where it's usually hot and Florida heat and all that, I don't think they could beat the Chiefs at home. I don't see it. I got the Chiefs 30-27 over Jacksonville. Titans and Los Angeles Chargers. This line smells. Okay, this line smells. I might argue the wrong team's favored. Austin Eckler's doubtful. And if he's doubtful, I don't know if the Chargers can go into Tennessee and beat them. And I know I don't think the Titans are that good. But this goes back to the point I mentioned earlier. Mike Vrabel's going to win some games. People go, how did the Titans win this game? There's a huge coaching advantage. Mike Vrabel, Brandon Staley. I like Mike Vrabel over Brandon Staley, okay? And I know the Chargers got talent, but I'm sorry. I don't think that defense is very good right now. And I know Tennessee's offense is suspect, but I think the Titans actually win at home, and they beat the Chargers 23-20. I don't think the Chargers are any bit as good as people think right now. I know I was high on them the last 2 years ago, I want to say. And then I kind of was like, I'm done. After 5 or 6 games into last year, I was out. And I think that, you know what? The Titans are going to beat them, and I think Vrabel's going to outcoach Staley. So I got 23-20 Titans over the Chargers. This line smells. I think the wrong team's favorite, but I got the Titans winning anyway. Falcons-Packers. Ooh, this is a coin flip. Two teams I'm not quite big believers in yet, although I can make the case either one of these teams can win and beat the other. This is a tough one. This is a coin flip. I'm going to take Atlanta because, of course, when I pick it against Atlanta, Atlanta beats Bryce Young. And I think that the Packers, I know Jordan Love is, everybody's going crazy and all that. They're talking about, oh, he looks really good. And they might have a great one. It's the Bears. Again, I have issues about the Falcons, pass rushers and all that. I know. But I think Jordan Love comes back to earth a little bit at some point. Okay, I could see Green Bay winning too, but I'm going with Atlanta because I think that Bijan is going to have his way. Again, I think Arthur Smith, this is where I give him a lot of credit to. He keeps the Falcons in a lot of games that a lot of people go, how are they even close with this team? And I think the combination of Bijan, Cordarrelle Patterson, if they can get Kyle Pitts involved, Drake London, I think Atlanta can do just enough in this game to win against Green Bay. And I've got Atlanta 26-20 over the Packers. Lions Seahawks. I don't love the Lions at 4.5. I don't. Okay, this line again. Okay, they're coming off an emotional win in Arrowhead, right? 10 days rest. Okay, I know it's their home opener. Seattle's coming off a game where they just got embarrassed by the Rams in their building. I could see an upset, but I just think that Seattle secondary is going to make it a little tough for the Lions receivers a little bit. I think it's going to be a little tough. But I think the edge the Lions have is their running game and their offensive line against Seattle's front. I think Seattle's front is a little suspect on the D-line and the linebackers, okay? Bobby Reiner is really good. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, but he's getting older. I don't like Seattle's front seven. I love Detroit's offensive line / running game. I think they're going to build on that. I got the Lions winning, but not covering at 4.5. I got the Lions 28-24 over Seattle. Colts-Texans. Another coin flip game, okay? Again, I could see either team winning, but I'm going to go with Anthony Richardson because he showed me a lot of things that I liked over C.J. Stroud. And I think Shane Steichen's going to come up with a couple plays where it's going to be very interesting, and they're going to be really interesting calls that I think that are going to go the Colts' way. And I'm going to say the Colts win 21-17 over the Texans. I think that Anthony Richardson and the Colts are a little bit better of a team than DeMeco Ryans and the Texans are. So give me the Colts 21-17 over the Houston Texans. Bears and the Bucks. I am not a Baker Mayfield fan at all. I'm not. And I know Chicago's offense looked god-awful. Another game, it's hard to pick a winner because Chicago's got the quarterback advantage. But from a roster standpoint, the Bucks have everything basically better. Except they lost some key vets that were good for them the last couple of years. But I'm going to take Chicago just because I feel like Justin Fields is going to do just enough to beat the Bucks. I think Baker Mayfield's going to give the Bears some turnovers that dig them in, and whatever he can carry it a certain way. But I don't think he's that good for them. And I think the Bucs will come down to earth at some point, and I think it's this game. Give me Chicago 20-18 over the Bucs. Giants-Cardinals. Another one of these games I love in Survivor. I have the Giants and Bills this week. Do not let me down. I'm trying to survive and everything with Survivor pools, okay? I had the Ravens and I had the Commanders. So both of those are good right now. So Ravens and Commanders are good. We're on a good start. Giants, Bills, two New York teams. Let's hope we can go 2-0 in both of those ones. The Giants should beat Arizona. Josh Dobbs is starting. The Cardinals have literally James Conner and then who else? Name them. Zach Ertz might not be playing. Okay. The Giants should win this game. They will win this game. And they'll win convincingly. They're the better team on paper. And I think Dayball will have his guys ready. The Giants win 31-7 over the Cardinals. I don't make much of them. I think they're tanking for Caleb Williams. And I got the Giants winning 31-7 because Dayball will have them right on track. And this is a game I believe the Giants should win and will win convincingly. Niners and the Rams. Matt Stafford and the Rams, they had a nice upset win. But here's the narrative. Kyle Shanahan owns Sean McVay outside of one game. And I think that Kyle Shanahan's going to have his way once again. I don't know how the Rams are going to block Nick Bosa, Hargrave. I don't know how they're going to do it. Matthew Stafford struggles with the 49ers. I'm going with the Niners once again, 28-10 over the Rams. I think that Purdy is going to carve up the Rams defense again. And the Rams lost a lot of guys from the Super Bowl run. The only guy I know they have is Aaron Donald, and I'm sure Kyle Shanahan's going to have a hard time figuring out how to block him. But outside of Aaron Donald, who do the Rams have on defense? Not a lot of guys. So give me the Niners 28-10 over the Rams. I think the Niners have their way again, and I think they move to 2-0 on the season and beat the LA Rams 28-10. Cowboys-Jets. Okay. I thought Tuesday when I heard the Rodgers news, I thought Dallas was going to smoke the Jets. After thinking about it a little bit and seeing advantages, disadvantages on both sides, I think the line's a little too high because I think we're overblowing the fact that they beat the Giants so bad, 40-0, and how Zach Wilson and that Jets line isn't really that great either. But here's something that scares me. Are we convinced Dak Prescott's going to beat the Jets and look that good against the Jets as he did with the Giants? I'm not banking on that. I think Robert Saleh and those guys are going to have a very good game plan to frustrate Prescott and make him turn it over at least twice. That's what I'm expecting. And when I thought that, I'm saying, I don't see 8.5. I mean, based on the talent gap, yeah, it should be, but something smells here. It's way too high. And I think it's bait. I'm serious. I think it's bait. It's crazy. I think the Jets keep this. I think the Jets keep it closer than people think. I don't think they win. I think the Cowboys win, but I think it's a defense slugfest. I lean the under in this game. I really would. I'm taking the Cowboys 17-13. Do not be surprised if this is low scoring, ugly, defense heavy. I know everybody wants to jump on the, Dallas destroying them and all that. I was almost going there. And then I sat back a couple of days and I'm like, the Jets defense is really good. But are we convinced Dak Prescott's completely fixed his turnovers and all that stuff? I don't know. I'm a little scared with McCarthy calling plays against Saleh's defense. I'm going to take the Cowboys 17-13, but it's going to be closer than people think. That's what I got. Broncos-Commanders. Interesting game because the Broncos didn't look bad against Washington. They really didn't. And Sam Howell looked good against the Cardinals, but Denver is a better team than the Cardinals are. In Mile High, I think Sean Payton's team and company, I think Russell Wilson gets his first win with Sean Payton. I think it's going to be Denver winning 23-16 over Washington. I think it's another defense-heavy game, but I think Sean Payton's going to have a couple plays that are going to be the biggest difference in the game that separate Denver from Washington in the ball game. I got Denver 23-16 over Washington. I think Sean Payton has the edge over Ron Rivera, and I think Denver wins this game, and I think they go to 1-1, and the AFC West gets a little interesting. My Patriots against the Miami Dolphins. I'm wearing New England gear. Tua is 5-0 against Bill Belichick. And I want to believe that Bill finally beats Tua. I don't know how we're going to cover Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Maybe I don't have enough confidence in this top 5 defense as everybody says it should be. Jonathan Jones, I hope, plays. I'm a little worried if he won't play. Okay? He's a big deal because he's our fastest corner on the team. And he's a really good corner, too. But I do see some signs this offense is heading in the right direction. I think Bill O'Brien against Vic Fangio is a very fun chess match. But like I said, I think Miami, the matchup's going to come down to our receivers against Miami's secondary. Jalen Ramsey's out. I'm sure Bill O'Brien's kind of telling Mac Jones, don't throw Xavier Howard's way. Don't throw it. Okay? Javon Holland, he had a pick against us last year, week 1. But I think we have the edge because we're going to find a way to run. I think we can run the ball in Miami too with Stevenson. Oh, and I didn't even mention Zeke Elliott fumbling. Zeke, if you fucking fumble, I'm done. I'm out. I already said I'm out of the season. But I still believe that, you know what? Somehow, Belichick wins games that I feel like he can win, but it's always the games that I don't think he has a chance and he always makes it close. But somehow I think we can beat Miami. I do. I'm going to take my Patriots 27-20 over Miami. I think that we can put enough points against Miami's defense, and I think Bill, the defensive genius that he is, I liked what I saw against Philly. But this is a different animal going against Tyreek and Waddle. I'm very interested to see how he covers them, especially without Jonathan Jones, if he doesn't play. But if John Jones plays, I like our chances. So I think New England beats Miami. I think New England beats Miami, and I think Bill gets his first win against Tua. So give me New England 27-20 over Miami. As much as I bashed my team, and I know. I'm taking them, though. Panthers-Saints on Monday night. Ooh. All right. Carolina let me down week 1. Saints won week 1. Ugly against the Titans. I'm not backing off the Carolina train yet. Nope. I think that Carolina is going to win its home opener. I am not big on Derek Carr. I think Carolina is better than Tennessee is as a team. And I think the Panthers defense is going to frustrate Derek Carr all night long. And I'm going with the Panthers 20-14 in an ugly slugfest on Monday night. I'm going Carolina 20-14 over New Orleans. Steelers-Browns. I'm going Pittsburgh. They're home. They've owned the Browns for the most part. I think Deshaun Watson might not have Amari Cooper. He's questionable right now. I think the Steelers bounce back and beat the Browns convincingly. I got them 28-17 over the Browns. I think they'll be fine. I am a little worried about how they'll block Myles Garrett if Nick Bosa was able to get some plays that almost sacked Pickett. And I think the Browns defense is better, but I don't think it's enough to slow down Pittsburgh. And they might hold them under 28, but I don't think they do enough to beat Pittsburgh in this game. So I got Pittsburgh 28-17 over the Cleveland Browns. And this reminds me, if you guys don't know, I've been tweeting my picks for Thursday night games since I do the show a little later than I've normally done it. So I'm going to pick the Thursday night game right now. Giants and the 49ers. Assuming everybody stays healthy, the Niners are going to beat the Giants convincingly. The Giants line couldn't block Dallas. I can only imagine Nick Bosa and Javon Hargrave and the stuff that the Niners are going to do to Daniel Jones. The Niners are going to absolutely smoke the Giants next Thursday night. Book it. Book it. This is like, they're going to get smoked. They have no line to block. Their line's improved, but to block Nick Bosa, Hargrave, no way. I'm taking the Niners to beat the Giants on Thursday Night Football, and I'll tweet it right before game time. That's what I've been doing with some of the Thursday night games. If you guys missed my tweet last Thursday night, I picked the Eagles to beat Kirk Cousins. Follow at Loungetime Pod on X. Thank you very much. That's where I post some of my game picks for the Thursday night games, since I'm recording Loungetime a little later than I normally would, the usual. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Loungetime. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so that way you guys can get all the latest notifications. When we go make a new episode, guarantee it should be coming shortly. We haven't liked a lot of the college games so far. There's some good games next week. Hopefully we can get some guarantees in for Friday night. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Loungetime. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And I'll see you guys next week on the next episode of Loungetime. Have a good night, everybody.